Tim Petrowich here for Dateline Marion, and again we're with Marion Head football coach Kerry Martin. Week 1 is in the books. The Wildcats a 49-35 winner over Mascoutah. Coach, let's talk about that game a little bit last week. I think first of all, the part that everybody wants to talk about the most is the end of the game. You got down by a point, 35-34 with 4 minutes to go, and not only did you respond with a first long play touchdown, but then you made a defensive stand and got another touchdown as you were supposedly trying to run out the clock. But, you know, simple play, run up the middle, and Caden broke it loose, and you wound up winning by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was a good finish. You know, it was a game where our kids faced a lot of adversity. You know, we had numerous times, you know, we made some mistakes and we got down and our kids battled back, and it's always a good thing to see your kids fight through adversity and never give up. And I told them the execution wasn't perfect, but the attitude and effort are where we build on. And I thought the attitude going into the game and even during crunch time when things weren't going well was good, and I thought the effort was strong. So we got a long way to go to be the team that I think we need to be. But it was a good start, and I love seeing us battle and fight, and it says a lot about the character of our kids.
We talked in the preseason about the fact that your team would be successful or would have a better chance of being successful if you could put together long plays of more than 20 yards.
Right.
And that's where a lot of successful teams stood out, was in long plays. I don't know if you realize this or not, 7 touchdowns last week. 5 of them were more than the 20 yards you talked about. One of them was an interception, but 4 of them were longer than 40 yards.
Yeah, that's a good sign. You know, it's one of those things we've been talking about, is having that big play potential. And you and I had that conversation. We talked about our ability to run the ball. We talked about our ability to create turnovers and not make turnovers. I think we were +3 or 4. +3 in turnover ratio. So when the offense doesn't turn the ball over, the defense can get 3 turnovers, and you've got several plays over 20 yards. Those are all good indicators you got a chance to win. And that's really how it turned out. But those indicators to us are important. They don't win every game, but if you're doing those things well, you've got a chance to be in every ball game.
And let's talk about the +3, because, you know, a lot of times +3 would mean you created 6 turnovers and turned the ball over 3 times.
Right.
I think a +3 when it's 3-0, when you don't give the ball up, is even more impressive. And there was 1 fumble, which your guys fell on. You fumbled the ball 1 time, which your guys fell on. David threw 13 times, completed 10 passes. None of them was even close to being tipped or intercepted or anything.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a really, really neat way to look at that. I think, yeah, you could be +3 and create 6, and as you said, only commit 3 yourself, which is good, but doesn't really in reality.
Right.
Yeah, the 3-0 is much better, and I think let's talk about being game 1 of the year. I mean, and not having a turnover in game 1, that's a big deal. I mean, that's our first competition. We have no preseason scrimmages. We have no exhibition games. We have no jamborees. That's our first game against somebody else. And so I was real proud of David, the way he managed the offense and led us. And, you know, he made a couple of mistakes, but he had that short leadership memory where you make a mistake, you learn from it, I won't do that again, but then you move on and you don't lose your composure. He kept his confidence, and it's just a really strong team effort from a lot of guys. And I think the other thing that stood out to me was the defense did not have a great first half, but the defense played much better in the second half.
Right.
And hats off to the coaching staff at halftime for making adjustments, for motivating those kids, and for the kids themselves to go out and play a great second half after having a rough first half.
I think we have to give a little bit of credit to your 2 big play guys that you expected to be big performers.
Right.
Caden Hilliard and Jaden Lacey, and
right.
they had their big plays. They each had 2 long scoring plays. I think Caden ran for 90+ yards and had a long touchdown catch.
Right.
Jaden had a nifty touchdown run where he broke several tackles, and then he had the game-winning touchdown on that little quick hitter to the right side where he broke free and got the touchdown. They continue to do the things that I think as seniors you expect them to do.
Yeah, you know, and of course, you know, we've seen this from Jaden since his sophomore year, and then Caden had some really good ball games last year and had indications he could be that kind of player. And you know, every team has their go-to people. It's not, you know, the good teams do, and we certainly do. And you've got to find ways to get them the football. We still love balance. We still love balance in run and pass and balance in touches. But you can bet those guys are big play players, and they came up big for us on Friday.
Well, you talk about that balance, and I you know, Jaden and Caden were a couple of these, but between running and passing, I think 10 different players touched the ball and play, you know, made significant plays.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for. I mean, we realize that certain people are going to do more with the ball and get a few more touches, but to have 10 different offensive players touch the ball, either catch, run, something, that's a good sign for us, and that's who we've been for a long time. And because what may have been Jaden's night this week may end up being someone else's night next if he gets doubled or keyed on. We've got to have other ways to get other people involved, and so it's good to see those guys make contributions in that ball game.
I want to talk about this before we get into the defense a little bit, and I mentioned this Friday night. Peyton Barnett had 9 yards rushing on 3 carries, but it may have been among the 9 most important yards in the game. Twice on 4th down, once for a score, and then once there at the end of the game when you're trying to get out of the goal line to preserve the win.
They were big. I mean, those 3 runs for 9 yards were big crucial moments, keeping a drive alive, scoring a touchdown, and getting us out of a hole late in the game when we're on the half-yard line. I mean, yeah, those are crucial plays. We trusted him to take care of that for us, and the offensive line came up big in those situations. And you're right, that could easily be forgotten, you know, in the statistics when you look at it, but no bigger carries than those 3 right there.
Let's talk about the defense, probably one of the areas of concern, and it wasn't so much getting to the ball, but I noticed that, you know, you made several hits in the backfield and then let the guy escape. And so I think wrapping up is probably one thing you're working on in practice.
You know, we've stressed tackling as much this year as any year, and a little disappointed we didn't tackle better after all the emphasis on tackling. So, but again, you know, I give some credit to their running backs, who I thought it ran extremely hard. You know, the way football is practiced today is different. We don't have the full-blown scrimmages that we once had due to depth at certain positions and due to concussion concerns and, you know, things that we have to worry about today that we didn't think about 25 years ago or 20 years ago when I got into this business as a head coach. It's really about 30, but I think that's hurting us a little bit, and maybe hurting everybody a little bit. I think the tackling has taken kind of a beating a little bit. It's one area where our safety concerns for our kids has to be priority number one. And some of the things we've had to take out of practice to be safer are some of those one-on-one tackling drills, those Oklahoma drills where it's 3-on-3. You know, that the things that used to be the glory moments of practice, I think are a bit out of the practice schedule now in a lot of coaches that I talk to and deal with because of concerns of player safety and keeping kids healthy for ball games. And I think tackling has suffered a little bit. I see that in the NFL, I see it in college, I see it in high school. And I think it will get better as the season progresses. It will get better as we play more games, but it's not something we have to tackle on bags and dummies and do simulated tackling drills to try to make up for that. And those things are great, but there's nothing that gets you ready for tackling people like tackling people.
Well, the bags and dummies don't keep their legs dry.
They don't. And so the technique is there, but that game speed, that game strength, those are things that we haven't done a lot of. I know we did it the blue and gold game. We had a few scrimmages. We did it, but it's not an everyday thing like it was when I played.
You go up against a very tough opponent on a long road trip, 4.5 hours, 5 hours up to Dunlap. They're ranked 10th in the state in the preseason poll, and we know what they're like because you saw, not only did you see the team, but a lot of the same players that were here in Marion a year ago and we lost in overtime. Yeah,
they're good. They're really good. They're a strong football team, and I'm impressed. I was impressed last year with them. I'm impressed this year with them on film. They're a good football team, and there's a reason. You know, sometimes state rankings are based on maybe reputation from years gone by, and not always about what they're like right now, but they're worth the ranking right now. They're a good football team, and they're going to create a really, really neat challenge for our football team, and we're going to have to raise our level to play with these guys. And I'm confident that we can do that, and we will do that. But given our present state of our schedule, the teams that are available who have open dates have open dates for a reason.
Yeah.
And so when you sign a Dunlap, or you sign a Highland, or you sign a Mattoon, or a Haywood County, or whoever you're signing, there's a reason they're open. And there's a reason they can't find a game and they're available. It's because they're pretty dang good. And that is the nature of Marion football in 2017. We're going to play good people.
Well, and to speak to that, there's a reason why you're having to look for these teams to play too.
Right. Right. And you know, we know that. I mean, we'd love to have a few more teams here or there on the schedule that we're going through a rebuilding process, and they're good. I mean, our schedule's tough again. I think you told me of the last 8 games we have, 4 teams are in the top 10 in the state,
4A or
5A. And you know, we don't complain about it. Told the kids that's what happens when you had some success as a program, and you're looking for games, and you're going to have to go travel, and you're going to have to play good people. And we keep saying we're growing as a program into our schedule. And of course, when you grow, there are growing pains. And one of the pains is having to play week in and week out really tough people. But in the end, it'll make you a better football team. And in the end, it'll make you better football players, and it'll help you grow as a coach when you go against good people, because you have to take your coaching to another level. So that's our challenge this week.
So I didn't get a chance to look into their game last week at all, but if I remember right, from the Dunlap team we played last year, quarterback is back. He was a junior last year. One of their top running backs was a junior last year. They like to mix it up, pass and throw, and they had pretty decent team speed too.
Yeah, they're leaning, at least game 1, they lean pretty heavily on a running back that's outstanding. Size, strength, speed. He's kind of a do-it-all kind of guy, and I think they lean heavily on the run, more heavily on the run, but they can throw it too. They got some big receivers that are tough to handle, big tight end who played out here against us last year. And yeah, I was impressed last year with them defensively. We had a great game here a year ago in overtime, and you know, but new season, new challenges. I think they have a lot returning, and you can tell that on the film.
And to give an idea for people who don't know a whole lot about them, if I mention teams like Metamora,
right,
Washington,
right,
and East Peoria, and teams like that, that's who plays in their conference.
That's right. Yeah, their conference is very good, and it's full of traditionally strong football teams. And in the last, 15, 16 years, when you say Metamora and Washington, people know automatically at the 5A level, those are powerhouse football programs, and they're in that conference with them. So it's a good team, good conference.
So a few nicks, any serious injuries out of last week's game?
Not serious. We've got some players that are dealing with things that they're lingering. We've got some medical issues as far as strep throat and just things like that. But we come out of Mascoutah, a hard-fought game, pretty healthy. So as of the time of this airing or filming, so hopefully we can remain healthy and be 100% when we go up there on Friday.
And I think you get a little depth back in the offensive line with the Zach Browning back after having to miss week 1.
Hopefully, maybe. We hope to get Zach back this week. We've got some players coming. Stuart Atkinson is due back within a few days. I don't know if it'll be this week, certainly by next week. Anthony Jimenez will be eligible, transfer back here from Heron. He should be eligible maybe week 4, maybe 3 or 4, we're not sure. He's a big, strong kid. So we've got some kids coming. And of course, anytime you get in the middle part of your schedule, which by then will be mid-season, hard to believe, we get to week 4 and 5, you may have to have some guys stepping in because there may be other guys out, but hopefully we can keep our health, keep our, keep playing well and keep getting better. The thing about coaching a young team is we're going to make mistakes, but the good news is we should get better in leaps and bounds at times, and I'm hoping we can see a big step of improvement this week.
And lastly, I just want to talk about the way we traveled last week. Pretty good crowd up in Mascoutah for the Wildcats.
You're right. We had a great crowd, and that was much appreciated, and they were loud and vocal, and it means a lot, you know. And our fans have traveled well, and I think sometimes the away crowds know that we really need them to be vocal because there's not as many of them, and man, they put out some noise, so it felt good to be on that sideline with our fans behind us, and it was a good night.
Well, just so you know, Maps says it's a 4-hour and 13-minute drive. So, you know, hop in the car, take off at 2 or 2:30 in the afternoon. You'll be there on time.
Got it.
And be able to watch some pretty good football on Friday night.
Yes, sir. We want to get back late.
That's Marion Head football coach Kerry Martin for Dateline Marion. I'm Tim Petrowich.